Good afternoon. It's Celeste of Astrology by Celeste. Yes, it is. I'm here with a cosmic conversation with Mychal Bryan, the brilliant astrologer. I can't wait to talk to him. Yes, yes. Welcome, welcome, Grace. And a moment with Jen and Peaceful Lady. Hi, hi, Sally. Hi, Witchy Dance. Hi, Patty. Hi, everyone. Okay, let me see. Maybe I should. So that he can join us. hmm How is everyone doing with the energy? Mercury retrograde is kicking me in the butt. Oh my God. Yes, it is. I'm moving really slowly, and I've had some twists and turns. My building, our garage door, was broken for like a week. Yep. And let's see. Here he is. Hi, Mychal. Yeah. My building was, yeah, the garage was broken, and what else happened? Oh, I have a real kerfuffle about something. Okay. Oh, it says you're unable to join. Oh no, let me see. Okay, accept. Okay. Instagram is acting funny. So we're just a little delayed. Oh, there we go. Hey,
Hi, Celeste. How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm doing very, very great. Can you hear me
I
okay?
can. I can. I like your new do.
I, I just did it last night.
I like
It's,
it. I like it. You always look good, but yeah, it's like it's very playful,
yeah.
and it right. I feel like it's a really nice energetic match.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that.
Mhm. Well, would you like to introduce yourself to everyone?
I am Mychal A. Bryan. I'm the founder of the Oraculos School of Astrology. And that's it. I teach astrology. I write books about astrology. I talk about astrology. Astrology is my life.
Yes, and I have your first book, Mastering Traditional Astrology, and today we're going to talk about your second book. Yes, show us your second book.
It's called Horary Astrology and the Natal Promise.
I love it. I love it. I love it. I want you to tell people about the natal promise because this is something that a lot of my students at Kepler, it's like, okay, well, we're talking about transits and having to have it has to relate to the natal promise.
Mm.
Sometimes that trips them up when they're analyzing charts. So, can you tell us what does that mean for you and give us some tidbits?
Yeah, awesome. So when it comes to just traditional astrology, we have this idea that the chart is meant to show the outline of our destiny within within our lives. So everything that we experience on a physical level, a mental level, a sociological level in our relationships, all of the major themes and patterns and recurrent events that we have within our lives, they show up within our natal chart. So that's the foundational premise of traditional astrology in general, because traditional astrology is about destiny. It's about describing to a person and assessing for a person what their destiny is going to be like in this lifetime, whether that's your health destiny or your financial destiny or your ancestral destiny in terms of your relationship with your parents or your relationship and destiny, your romantic destiny. Traditional astrology is all about the describing of one's destiny within this lifetime. And so there's an axiom, or there's this term in traditional astrology, this phrase that says nothing promised, nothing given. And what that means is that if it isn't promised within our natal chart, there is no transit that can bring it our way. There is no solar arc direction that can bring it our way. There is no solar return that can bring it our way. Because if it isn't first foretold within your natal chart, which is basically the story of your life, then no predictive astrological tool can manifest something in your life that wasn't already first present in your destiny. So that's why, traditionally speaking, it's so important for us to have a really good understanding of the natal chart, because when you understand the natal chart fully, you understand the full range of what that chart promises for that person's life. And when you understand that, then when you use the transits, you can say, okay, these transits are going to bring out this part of your natal promise, or these transits are going to diminish this part of your natal promise, or these transits are going to fulfill this part of your destiny. But the reality is, it first has to come from our birth chart.
Yes, it's got to be there or it's not going to happen. Yeah. And it's just being able to discern certain things about what could or could not happen. That is the art of astrology. Yeah, I love that. And we're also going to talk about horary, one of my favorite topics. I love horary, where you could, well, why don't you describe it since you wrote a book about it? Tell people
Um,
the basics of what horary astrology is.
Amazing. So basically, Horary astrology is, when I describe it to people for the first time, I say it's kind of like the tarot of astrology, where we're using the chart of the moment that we ask a question to interpret what the future of that question will be. So, in the same way as we have our birth chart to interpret what the future of our lives in this world is going to be, we also have the horary chart, which is the chart of a genuine question. And all divination is based on a genuine question. So, not something flippant like I just met this person on the bus, is this person my soulmate? But something that's really deep within your heart, a burning, sincere, single question. That is the fuel behind all divination, whether it's tarot, whether it's horary, whether it's reading tea leaves, whatever. And horary astrology, it uses those same tarot principles, and it identifies where you are within this present moment, what's the biggest issue going on within your life at this moment, and what's the most likely outcome based on where you are, what that issue is, and what question you're asking about that issue.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I use this with all my clients. I use the consultation chart. So the time they're coming for a reading, set in my location about what is going on with them and what's coming up. And sometimes they aren't even, it's not even in their conscious mind what is really pressing until they start talking, and then it comes up to the surface. Do you do that? Do you use the consultation chart?
I wrote a whole chapter about the consultation chart in this book.
Ah! I love it. I'm teaching about the consultation chart in England at the Astrological Association
Oh,
conference. So,
you're going in August? This
hmm
in like
yeah, 2 weeks. Yeah.
wow, amazing, amazing, amazing. Congratulations.
Oh, thank you, thank you. Yeah, I'm doing a workshop about the consultation chart, and then teaching about this Venus and Mercury retrograde that's happening in March. I
Mm-hmm.
think something about it really jumped out at
Awesome.
me. So I got I got to write that presentation. Don't tell anybody. I haven't started it. It's overdue.
Same way, exact same way. Actually, my approach to speaking at conferences these days is I just do a chart reading demonstration, because that's just what I mean. I can do that. I can do that basically. So I don't want to make any more slideshows. I don't want to put together any presentation. I don't want to submit my slide the day before. No, my conference presentation is going to be me reading a chart on the spot in that moment, and everybody goes home happy.
Well, I'm glad I got to see your medical astrology presentation when you gave it at Norwalk, because it was amazing. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. So, okay. So we'll talk about the horary. So the ascendant in the horary, the chart
Hmm.
of the moment when the astrologer understands the question or the consultation. Tell us about what the ascendant means and the quasitive kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the ascendant within a horary chart essentially is you. In the same way as the ascendant in your birth chart is also you, your soul, your psyche, who you are, what's going on within you, all of those things, the same thing is true about the ascendant within the horary chart. So we use the ascendant in the horary chart as a means of describing exactly what circumstances you find yourself facing in this present moment. And I think that that is phenomenal because it's in order to do anything like natal astrology, in order to understand natal astrology fully, you have to understand who that person is. And to that end, we start reading charts from the ascendant when we're doing natal astrology. The same thing is true in terms of horary astrology. We have to understand who the person is fully and what issues they find themselves coming to the reading with, because unless you understand that, you really don't have any sense of direction of where to go. So that's one of the biggest things that we do astrologically speaking, or in terms of horary astrology, we assess what is going on with this person. Even before we talk about the issue that they're talking about, oftentimes in horary astrology, if you have a very clear understanding of what's going on with that person, what are their strengths in this moment, what are their weaknesses in this moment, what sort of environment do they find themselves in at this moment, all of which is answered through the ascendant, then you kind of have 90% of what you need in order to know what the outcome of their question is going to be.
Yeah. And you determine that by looking at the planet that is ruling the sign on the ascendant. And we only use the seven visible planets
Mhm.
for the rulers. So do you use the outer planets at all when you're doing your work? How do you use them?
I
Just as
do,
giving a color?
definitely. I mean, in terms of, so medical astrology is something that I do profusely in my practice. Every single reading I give, there's a medical astrology component, whether or not that person has come from medical astrology reading. And my next book, which up until I think 12 hours ago, I thought that it would be coming out in December, but it, but it's probably, it can come out in December. I feel within myself like I've written the majority of the book already, so it can come out in December if I'm really, really on myself about it. However, I'm giving myself between now and at least March of next year for the next book to come out, even though it's pretty much ready for December. Anyway, point is,
Well, this is really important, Michael. So I'm going to pause you there because today is Sun King Kong Saturn. And this is such a good example of the
yep.
astrology. So, Sun, our conscious mind, it spotlights things.
Mm-hmm.
King Kong says are like this irritation and buzz in our, our blind spot,
Yeah.
our 150 degrees.
Uh-huh.
Uh, and then Saturn brings reality to us. And Saturn and Pisces, like something that's going on in the
Exactly.
sky with Jupiter besieged between Mars and Saturn, is like it's coming to your conscious reality. We got to let go of the magical thinking that we were going to get the book done by
Uh-huh.
Christmas or whatever. Mercury's retrograde. We're really kind of rolling it back and seeing the situation. And yeah, that's what the King Cooks can do.
No, I mean it's really that. And like I said, like last night, because everything is already set in place for it. And right now, and what's good about this third book, so the third book is going to be on medical astrology. Because these first two books, Mastering Traditional Astrology, is basically the background of every question that people have astrologically speaking. Why are the aspects like this? Why are the elements like this? Why are the astronomy parts like this? Why are the how, this book was the book of why. That was really my only intention in writing this book. But these two books were always meant to be companions with each other: Mastering Traditional Astrology and Horary Astrology and the Natal Promise. Because these two books represent the first semester of our 2-year diploma program at Oraculos. So I'm extremely blessed and humbled and happy that I was able to write the textbooks for the courses that I teach. And so the next book, and I'm not saying the name just yet because I'm not saying the name, but the next book is going to be on medical astrology, because the next book begins our natal astrology series. So the next book is only going to be about about psychological astrology and medical astrology through a traditional lens. And because once again, that requires an entire book. This idea of describing the soul and the psyche and their physical body and the sorts of medical conditions that are present within their chart, and how those same planetary combinations that describe those medical conditions also describe larger issues within their non-medical lives. All of that, that's like one book by itself. So that's what the next book is going to be about. And I'm saying all of this because within the context of my medical astrology practice, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto are indisposable. I use them all the time. And by all the time, I mean I use them if they're doing something in the chart. So, for example, I'm running my natal astrology intensive at the moment, and we have somebody who literally just like an hour ago, she has Venus conjunct Neptune, and something else is going on. And within the medical astrology context, that is one of the signs of hypothyroidism. So the
Mm.
so the thyroid is this gland in our pharynx, in the front of our throat, basically. And the thyroid governs our energy levels, but it also governs our metabolism and how we're able to process, how we're able to digest food, and just our overall energy constitution. And there, you could have hyperthyroidism, you could be creating too much thyroid hormone, or you could have hypothyroidism, where you have a depressed thyroid gland and not enough thyroid hormone. And astrologically speaking, the thyroid is signified by Venus. And aspects to the Venus tell us which direction a person's thyroid is going. So if a person has Venus Mars or Venus Uranus, that's usually a hyperthyroidism. Whereas if a person has Venus Saturn or Venus Neptune, that's usually a hypothyroidism. And so for me, I don't want to work hard. Why do I need to not use Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto when I know they 1,000% work, particularly within medical astrology, but also within all other branches of astrology? This idea of not using the modern planets out of fidelity to traditional astrology is really stupid for me, because there's a lot of things we use in traditional astrology that you don't use all the time, but you use them when they're relevant. There's over 97 Arabic parts in astrology as well. You don't use all the Arabic parts, but you use some of them because they're relevant within the context of the reading that you're giving. And that's the same about Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto.
I love that. And we're going to have to pause here because I have Venus conjunct Mars, and they're both trine Uranus. Now, there's nothing wrong with my thyroid as far as I know, and I do take a supplement. Uh, I do take a supplement because it started to like do a little something years ago. But you said so hyperthyroid. What are the symptoms of that?
Well, first of all, tell me what sign are they in?
Okay, so Venus in Gemini, 7 degrees, Mars in Gemini, 10 degrees on Aldebaran, and Uranus at 5, Libra.
Okay, so the Uranus isn't going to be so important because within medical astrology we only use hard aspects.
Okay.
But the but so Venus Mars by itself has its own content attached to it. And one of the things with Venus, well, anyway, Venus Mars by itself as a planetary combination has its own content, and I can get into that later. But with Venus Mars in Gemini, there's this idea within traditional astrology that if a planet is in a particular sign and afflicted in that sign, then the part of the body that corresponds with that sign is also going to be afflicted. So
Asthma.
so that's what I'm going to say. So Gemini, for example, is ruling the lungs and is ruling the entire pulmonary system, the respiratory system. So if you have Venus in Gemini afflicted by Mars, then that oftentimes is going to indicate inflammation within the lungs, constant bronchitis, things that directly affect your respiratory system is more than likely going to be what that combination is symbolizing. And then the other piece of the Venus Mars, which is, probably not suitable for this sort of sharing, but Venus is also having a lot to do with the female reproductive system as well.
I,
And
I have fibroids.
well, okay,
I had to have two
I was, I was,
surgeries.
I was, I was gonna say, let me tell you what it means first before you
Oh,
tell me.
okay.
But
Sorry.
Venus Mars is a combination for heavy bleeding during menstruation. So does that resonate with you?
Yes, it used to.
Yeah, yeah. So Venus Mars is heavy bleeding during menstruation. Venus Mars is also, so that's called menorrhagia. Menorrhagia is heavy bleeding during menstruation, but it's also an exceptionally painful period as well with Venus Mars because Mars is wounding and the god of war, and Venus is my womb, basically. So Venus Mars can also be dysmenorrhea, which is excessive pain during my menstruation, and then I mean, we sometimes see Venus, Mars, and endometriosis, but not often. We more so see endometriosis as Venus, Pluto, because Pluto has to do with abnormal growth. And when you have Venus, Pluto, particularly if the Venus is in Scorpio, which is representing the reproductive system in general, when you have Venus, Pluto and hard aspect, that oftentimes has to do with abnormal growth within the uterus. And so sometimes it's fibroids. It's not often fibroids because, for the most part, fibroids just tend to be uncomfortable, but they oftentimes aren't really going to develop into cancer or anything. They're just an uncomfortable mass that's growing within the uterus, right?
Mm-hmm.
But Venus Pluto has to do with abnormal growth in the uterus, and we oftentimes see that in the charts of women who have endometriosis, because endometriosis is when when the inner lining of your uterus, the endometrial lining, tissue similar to that grows outside of the uterus, on the fallopian tubes, on the ovaries, on the bowels, on the bladder. And as a result of that, the Venus Pluto is abnormal growth within my uterus. So anyway, I have so much to say, particularly about female reproductive issues, because
Well, we've
my
got Venus in Virgo, and we have Mercury retrograde in Virgo. So we're talking about women's
Mhm,
health issues.
exactly,
It's astrology is amazing. Once you start, I mean, you can't put the lid back on your mind after you start learning astrology, and you can study for your entire life and never. There's still more to learn. Yes, yes. And I want to say before I forget, I had 2 surgeries. Gemini likes to do things twice to deal with my fibroids.
when it comes to fibroids, I usually think of. I mean, I've never seen your chart before, so I have no
Yes, you
context.
have.
Have I? When?
I came for a reading, Michael, like 2 years ago. You
Oh
did a
my
solar
God,
return reading
that's
for me once.
how we met. That is how we. Okay, I'm sorry. Okay, so I'll have to look someplace and take a look at it. But so fibroids, because fibroids oftentimes tend to be benign, as in sometimes they can be complicated, but for the most part, fibroids have a tendency to being benign. They're just a growth that we want to remove because they might be uncomfortable. It might be uncomfortable moving. It might throw off our menstrual cycle or whatever. I tend to think of fibroids more as a Venus, Pluto, Jupiter combination. So Venus squaring Jupiter, Venus afflicted by Pluto as well. Do you have any of those as well in your chart?
Well, I have Pluto in Virgo, but it's at 24, and Venus is at 7. So that's real. Like, what orb do you
Yeah,
use?
that's really wide. I would okay. We're getting into the weeds, but but
It's Mercury's in Virgo. It's okay to get a little into the weeds. What orb?
okay. So I use a maximum of a 7-degree orb personally, but
Okay.
I also use smaller aspects. I also use like the semi-square and the sesquiquadrate and a whole bunch of other stuff. So I'm sure if I was looking at your chart, I'd be able to see enough to point in the direction of female reproductive issues. We already got that with the Venus Mars. Also the respiratory issues, which we got with the Venus Mars and the Gemini. And yeah, we just have to pull it up and see. It's all there is the point. And that's what we mean by natal promise. It's all there. There's nothing that can happen to you within this lifetime that isn't present within your natal horoscope.
Yeah, and the timing of talking about this.
Hmm.
Mars is conjunct Jupiter and Gemini, squaring Saturn.
Wow.
And Jupiter rules my 6th house of things that go wrong with my health.
Mm.
So we're talking about my health problems with my lungs, as well as, yeah, as well as the Saturn part. One day I woke up and I remember I was standing in my hallway outside the bathroom, and I
Mhm.
felt like someone stabbed me in the uterus. Like I'd had bad periods my whole life, but it was like oh my God, I like almost fell over.
Mhm.
And it was an eclipse to my ascendant midheaven point,
Mhm.
um, which Dietrich Pessin calls the toggle switch of your chart,
Yeah,
where when it's hit, everything in your life can change. Like all,
yeah,
it impacts all the houses.
yeah.
And yeah, it has set me on this journey. I was in pain almost every day for 4 years. It was horrible,
Mm-hmm.
unbelievable.
That's Venus, Mars to a very large degree. You know, there's an aphorism. It's funny, I was just having this conversation because, like I said, I'm running the Natal Astrology Intensive right now, and then the Horary Intensive starts on Sunday. But there's this aphorism within. So your moon, what's your moon doing? Is your moon having any hard aspect to?
My moon's in Aries at 17 Aries, so it's a sextile to Mars and Venus, but it's a square to my
Oh,
ascendant. I'm a Cancer
Celeste,
rising.
you're killing me. Do you want me to look at your chart?
Yeah, pull it up.
Okay.
T Bird is like, we all want a chart reading.
Okay, hold on because this is getting
Uh-oh, now I can't hear you. Okay,
because someone's calling me. I don't know why.
okay.
All right, Celeste, date of birth. Date of
It's
birth.
May 3rd,
You're
1970.
born like a day before me. My birthday is May 4th.
Oh my gosh, yeah. And it's 10:46 a.m.
10:46 a.m. Uh-huh.
in Pittsburgh, PA.
Pitts, Burgh.
Yeah,
Penn, double,
Pennsylvania.
double N, right? Two N's in Pennsylvania, yeah?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. Um, and you said, yeah, you have 20 Cancer rising.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. So let's just take a look and see. So yeah, you definitely have the Venus Mars for sure. And you have Uranus on the fourth house cusp, which comes with its own content, which I'm sure you know, but you want me to talk about it?
You can. My father is very volatile.
Right. So Uranus on the fourth house, we often see that with what's it called? What, oh, you didn't tell me. No, it's not. No, never mind. So Uranus on the fourth, we often see that when people are having what is the thing called? What is the thing called? They come from a family of divorce. That's one of the things. Or their family kept on moving. Their parents kept on moving when they were children, or they got volleyed back and forth between the parents because the parents divorced, or something to that effect. And that's one of the ways how Uranus on the fourth is manifesting.
Mm-hmm. And at 16, my father got a job transfer to Canada, and it like uprooted us, and we moved to Canada for a year, and then California for a
Yeah.
year. Mm-hmm.
There you go. There you go. So that's how that's showing up for you. And then you also have the moon Uranus is too wide for me personally. I know people who would take it, but I won't. Um, you have the Jupiter at 29 Libra, which is, it's a stress point within, it's a stress. What is that Jupiter ruling for you? So the Jupiter, right, is ruling in 6,000. So once again, that's a stress point. You have that the crisis degree, which can say that health issues regarding that part of your body can be a crisis. Now, Libra, the jury is out on Libra because for me, I personally have found a lot of women who have something in Libra that's afflicted or something in Libra at the anoretic degree, like you have it, and that manifests as female reproductive issues. But the overall thing is that Libra corresponds with the kidneys and it also corresponds with the ureters, which passes urine from the kidneys to the bladder. And so that could possibly be something that we're needing to look out for and keep an eye on within this lifetime as well, just overall kidney health and function.
My family has a history of diabetes. I'm fine, but my mother had kidney disease. She was on she was on dialysis.
You have the Sun, Saturn as well in Taurus. Now, remember what I said earlier about if a planet is in a sign and afflicted while in that sign, then it oftentimes refers to an affliction to that part of the body. So Taurus, for the most part, has to do with it's the throat, of course. But it's the all of the things within this part of the throat. So it's the thyroid, it's the trachea behind. thyroid, it's the esophagus, that whole region. And when we have Sun Saturn as a combination, it oftentimes can point towards there being hereditary health issues from the father side of the family that we find ourselves having within our own lives. So there could be a story of a slow, sluggish thyroid or something from your father's side of the family, and that becomes one of your stories. Or there could also be issues with the bones and issues with the bone health and the skeletal health in general, because whenever a planet is conjunct the sun, it's as if that thing is getting a highlight within this lifetime, or that thing is getting a major spotlight put on it. And so, and the parts of the body that that planet rules is also getting a spotlight. So Saturn, as we know, is going to be our joints. Basically, it's going to be our joints, it's going to be our bones, our skeletal system. So that would be another thing that I would say to be mindful of. The thyroid for sure, because you have the two thyroid things. You have the Venus, Mars, but you also have the Sun in Taurus with the Saturn. And so those would be things that I say to look out for in this lifetime.
Yeah, I just started having shoulder pain
Mm-hmm.
here. When Saturn squared my Mars, I started having this shoulder pain.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, and then the last thing that you do have, Celeste, which I mean, I'm so happy we're talking. The last thing you do have is you have the Mercury in opposition with Neptune. Now, Mercury, Neptune, there are two things that it symbolizes. There's a couple things that it symbolizes. Mercury, Neptune is a combination for mucus. A lot of mucus buildup because Mercury is ruling the lungs once again, and Neptune has to do with a weakening of the thing that Mercury is ruling, which is the lungs. So we find Mercury, Neptune in the charts of people who have a lot of allergies. We also find Mercury, Neptune in the charts. Yeah, it's allergies for you.
Allergies. Yes.
So that's the allergies. But we also find with a lot of mucus buildup. So I consider Mercury, Neptune to be the combination of pneumonia, for example, because Mercury is ruling the lungs and Neptune is ruling water. Then what is pneumonia? Pneumonia is an excess of fluid within my lungs, essentially. So that things to look out for. Mold is definitely to be avoided as well because, the respiratory system and mold just don't go together for anyone, but particularly not when you have the Mercury and the Neptune. And once again, this is another pointer as far as the thyroid is concerned, because once again, we have Mercury in Taurus afflicted by the Neptune, and when a planet is in a sign and afflicted by another planet while in that sign, then the parts of the body that that sign corresponds with is oftentimes afflicted. So once again, this is another thing that we would see in terms of a slower, sluggish thyroid. So I just be mindful just to keep an eye out on it to make sure that we're, speaking to our naturopath or your acupuncturist, doing herbal thyroid remedies to just make sure that you're giving this part of your body more love, because it's indicated by the Sun, Saturn, and Taurus, but also the Mercury, Neptune, and Taurus, and the Venus, Mars, as well as also having a little bit to do with it.
Yes. And you know what? So today Venus is in Virgo and my South Node is in Virgo.
Mm-hmm.
So we're talking about some of the hereditary South Node
Mm-hmm.
things about my health and in my third house of the lungs. And
Yep.
yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's all well.
And to take it up, Sun King Kong Saturn is today.
Mm,
Whenever a planet's in the sky or making aspects that you have talking in your chart, there will be a story for you. And so I have unexpectedly gotten an astrology reading.
oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, hold on. I just looked in the declination table because remember I said that I thought when you were describing the fibroids, and I said that fibroids for me are more of a they're more of a, what did I say? I said they're more of a Jupiter
Yes.
situation because
I
they
have
tend,
Moon Jupiter contra parallel.
you have Moon Jupiter contra parallel, and I didn't even look at that. You have the Moon Jupiter contra parallel, and also on the note of the hereditary diabetes, Moon Jupiter is something that we often see within that as well, because Jupiter, as we know, I mean, when we have Moon Jupiter, it oftentimes has to do with that particular health condition, but more so from a lifestyle perspective, because the Moon Jupiter is the rich foods and it's having that sort of relationship with food. And so for you, this would be something that is more controllable because this has more to do with just diet in general. But the moon is also having to do with the moon, with the womb. Venus is primarily the womb. The moon is secondarily the womb. And I said to you earlier that, hey, that doesn't sound right because I know that fibroids are a womb plus Jupiter story, and you do have the moon Jupiter in your chart.
Mm-hmm. I do. I forgot about that. I haven't been looking at the parallels and contra parallels lately. I need to get back to that.
Powerful. They're so powerful.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. I'm going to ask you, what do you think about me taking hormones for menopause or whatever you call it?
Okay.
Those estrogen, progesterone thing.
You know, okay, what feels for you like, and so if this were a consultation, I would say to you, hey, so what feels for you like the reason why you would want to go on that, or what's the advice that you're being given in relation to that?
Two of my friends keep bothering me about the fact that it's now new research is coming out that hormones are protective of the heart. Um,
Well, okay, well, regarding that research, the research that I've seen and the research that I pay attention to just within my own female reproductive health studies is that the uterus continues to create biochemicals that are supportive to the health of the heart long after a woman's childbearing years. So that is the research that I've been paying attention to, and that's a part of why a lot of doctors, because usually in the past, whenever a woman had endometriosis, one of the first go-tos would be to tell her to get a hysterectomy, because the thought was that if we take out this uterus, then there's not going to be anything for the endometriosis to affect or whatever. And they found that that wasn't really the most truthful thing in the world, because when those adhesions of endometriosis grow on the organs outside of your uterus, they're still going to be there, essentially. So anyway, they nowadays
I still
the
have my uterus.
right. So the doctors who I'm following and who the research that I'm following says that we don't prescribe hysterectomies, or we don't overprescribe hysterectomies anymore, because the uterus continues to create hormones essentially that are supportive to the health of the heart long after a woman's childbearing years. So possibly you may not even need to take those hormones because you still have your uterus, and if you're doing it because of that heart health connection, then the uterus is already having some roles to play within that.
Yeah, I've been thinking I don't want to take them necessarily because well, there was the thinking that it could increase cancer risk,
Hmm.
but yeah, I do have some mild hot flashes, so I
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, the other thing with that, and this is just tangential for me because I haven't been following the research on fibroids and hormones as much as I've been following the research on endometriosis and treatments for endometriosis. But when we take extra hormones, it increases the likelihood of there being reproductive health. The ramifications tend to be on the reproductive system. So if you're taking essentially growth hormones that directly impact your reproductive system and you're already prone, or you already have a predisposition towards fibroids, I would speak to like a doctor to find out whether or not you take hormones might potentially increase the risk of having those fibroids grow
Mm,
again.
or having me standing outside the bathroom feeling like I'm getting stabbed again. Yeah, I don't my instinct is, and I think it came on from birth control pills that I was taking back then. So I think that's what started it. And yeah, me taking hormones to me intuitively,
Yeah.
I am an astrologer and an intuitive, is like, I better really think it
Yeah.
through before and I had someone pull a medical horary for me, and they said they didn't like that there could be potentially a problem from taking the yeah. Oh, and so people are commenting. So people are enjoying this conversation. Uh, it's so informative. It's so in line with the energy. It's so perfect. So, what about Shatarbi Mordiga or Ashwagandha?
So,
Someone's roseblood is that saying.
right. So moringa is something that we grow in the Caribbean, and ashwagandha is so these are sounding like Ayurvedic remedies.
Oh,
Uh,
okay.
person is suggesting. And once again, I would speak to an Ayurvedic doctor
Mm-hmm.
or an Ayurvedic doctor specifically, because an Ayurvedic doctor would be the one who has more insight into how to navigate that. For me, one of the things that's most important is that as a medical astrologer, I don't practice beyond the scope of my practice.
Mm-hmm.
That's something that we don't find a lot of people emphasizing today in, in medical astrology, because when people practice medical astrology, they think that they're also in a role to prescribe things as well, which is a problem, because astrology can only describe the thing
Yes.
lives. So you can't prescribe as a result of that. So I'm a neuromuscular therapist. I'm an Ayurvedic counselor. I'm a body worker. I have all of these things under my belt. But when I'm practicing astrology, I know that the scope of an astrological practice only goes as far as my ability to describe to a person who they are within themselves, their general constitution, what their body is just generally doing in general. Thirdly, what's the third thing? The morbificant. This word morbificant is a classical astrology word, but the morbificant planetary combinations. Morbificant means causers of illness,
Mm-hmm.
essentially. So, what planetary combinations in a person's chart are going to be causers of illness in this lifetime? So, for you, for example, we spoke about the Venus Mars, and we spoke about that painful period, heavy bleeding during menstruation, as well as, I mean, those are the main two things: painful periods, heavy bleeding during menstruation, a violent womb, essentially, because the violence comes from the Mars and the Venus gives us the womb. So, the violent womb.
Mm-hmm.
Then got to another layer of the Venus Mars, and we said you have Venus Mars conjunct in Gemini. So this also has to do with inflammation of the lungs, which can be bronchitis, those things, and that could be pointing towards a lung health condition as well, or just paying attention to your respiratory health. Then we saw the Mercury, Neptune, and we said that has to do with weakened lung vitality, as well as extra mucus buildup within the lungs and the likelihood of pneumonia. And you said that you have asthma, so
Yeah.
asthma and pneumonia exist on the same
And it
spectrum.
comes from
So I mean,
my father's side of the
from the
family.
father's side of the family, which we spoke about through your son Saturn. So the point is, from a medical astrology perspective, we can do countless things in terms of describing the sources of illness within a person's life, but that's kind of where the buck stops. If I'm only practicing within an astrological lens, I can't even suggest to you that you should drink more water, because suggesting to you that you drink more water is beyond the scope of astrology, essentially. That is essentially prescribing something to someone. And there are people who the ciliated epithelium, the internal lining of their throats, they can't actually drink water. So who knows? I go tell you to go drink water and you drop down dead because Michael Bryan said you should drink water. No, we can't even prescribe to someone that they should drink water if we don't have a medical background or a complementary medical background. So anyway, saying all that to say, we love I'm happy that people are putting in their suggestions in the chat box, but I can't tell you to go take no ashwagandha. Suppose you have an allergic reaction to ashwagandha, then Celeste is dead because of Michael Bryan. There'll be and, and
Yes, and so it's very important for all of us who are astrologers to always recommend people, like we see this in your chart, talk to your doctor about it and see if it's in it. Like, yeah, talk to your doctor, talk to a nutritionist, talk to da 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 da. Mm-hmm. So important to remember that, even when we see stuff health wise. So that's, yeah, that's incredible. Oh my God, Michael, we've been talking for an hour and 15 minutes. I'm so sorry. I can't. Oh wait, no. We started at 1:30, so we're going to 2:30. Okay, sorry. This Mercury retrograde, the time is different, and then all of a sudden I was like, oh no. Okay, yeah. This is great. Okay, let me see. Are there any other questions? Somebody's asking about synthetic versus bio. Yeah, there's all kinds of things. But yeah, I think I will take this note to talk to talk to maybe an Ayurvedic somebody, because I do not want to bring back Retrogrades can bring back. We're talking about the potential, even though I'm not doing it with Mercury retrograde, the potential of this horrible health issue. Mercury's retrograde in Virgo coming back. And it's related to female stuff. And Venus is still within orb of Mercury. So it's dissipating, but it's still in orb. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we should talk about besiegement. I think because right now Mars is coming to conjunct Jupiter and Gemini, and they're both squaring Saturn and Pisces. So Jupiter is besieged between a rock and a hard place, between enemy forces, and Jupiter's the protector. And we saw, like, thank God Taylor Swift is okay, but we're seeing all this stuff with the Secret Service, with Donald Trump almost getting shot, and I'm really worried about Kamala Harris. We know they're trying to get her. So yeah, what would you say about Jupiter besiegement, and talk about detriment? Ooh, and then I want to talk us to go through the dignities, like how you describe rulership and all that.
Okay, cool. So besiegement is exactly what you said, and also I write about this in my book, Mastering Traditional Astrology. That besiegement is about being between a rock and a hard place. So let me just pull up the chart of the moment while we're sitting down here talking. So we have the Jupiter, and like you said, the Mars is coming to apply to the Jupiter. I personally like Mars Jupiter as a combination, just because Mars Jupiter is one of our fertility midpoints, is one of our fertility combinations. Mars has to do with work, Jupiter has to do with success. So Mars Jupiter is the combination of successful work, which could also be a successful pregnancy. So I kind of love Mars Jupiter in general. And so on the day when the two of those go exact, I think that's going to be is that Wednesday coming up or something?
I think it's the 14th is Mars Jupiter, and the 15th is Mars square Saturn.
Exactly, something like that. But on that day, I mean, that's a very auspicious day from an astrological perspective, because Mars and Jupiter, they just work well together. It's a wonderful day to promote what you're doing. It's a wonderful day to sell something. It's a day of success, basically. But this idea of the Mars applying to the Jupiter and then applying to the Saturn, I'm more concerned about the Mars-Saturn combination, because once again, from a medical astrology perspective, the Mars-Saturn would have to do with, we call it the death axis, because Mars and Saturn, as we know, are the malefics within traditional astrology. And so when we have the two of them, any sort of hard aspect combination, it manifests in a very challenging sort of way. So I spoke about this in my weekly forecast over on YouTube, that this day, and I think there was something else happening earlier in the week. There was some Mars sesquiquadrate Pluto or something. And so there were these very high intensity days. And this Mars Saturn day is also going to be a very big one, because Mars Saturn has to do with this feeling of pent up anger and frustration that you can't do anything about. And so it turns into bitterness, and it becomes even more vitriolic. And then it just explodes. It explodes in a way that's really detrimental, and in a way that's very harmful. So this day, when the Mars and the Saturn are going to be exact, is going to be pretty challenging, astrologically speaking. And then from a medical astrology perspective, once again, if a planet is in a sign and afflicted in that sign, the part of the body that corresponds with that sign is also going to be afflicted. So Mars is in Gemini, once again referring to the lungs. Saturn is Saturn, referring to obstruction. So this is something that we could see within the charts of people who have something like a COPD, which is a chronic obstruction, or chronic pulmonary obstruction disorder, basically, or cystic fibrosis, or there's some other major obstruction within their respiratory system. Could be the Mars in Gemini in a square relationship with Saturn.
Yeah. I think next week the energy is so intense, because the success can be doing something bad.
Exactly.
With Mars Jupiter square Saturn, like, an attack. And we're seeing all over the world all of this upheaval, and we're going to see probably something big coming up. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. We'll see. Yeah. So let's go through. I've got all kinds of things I'm thinking about. Oh, this could be. Oh my goodness. But Jupiter, Saturn's in Pisces. So with the Jupiter squaring Saturn, Saturn's kind of answering into Jupiter. So let's hope
Mm-hmm.
all the bad plots are discovered. Yeah,
Yeah.
with Mercury retrograde.
All right. I'm still looking at your chart, Celeste, because I'm just obsessed. And I'm looking at the parans within your chart, and I think you have Venus and Neptune. Let me just see. No, it's not close enough. But you basically have by paran a very wide combination of Venus and Neptune, which is interesting. But anyway, go on. Sorry, I was getting
Oh,
distracted.
what were you going to say about it? As long as it's not too dastardly.
Uh, Yeah, no, no, no. It's close, and I know some astrologers who would take this orb between them by Paran, but it's not close enough for me, so I don't want to spoil my reputation by saying the wrong thing. So it's
Oh,
fine.
okay. Oh, I do want to ask.
Oh,
Can I say that my son Saturn's Kazemi, or would you say no because it's the same degree?
well, okay, let me go check because from a traditional perspective, yes, you technically can. However, it means nothing at all from a hold on. No, it has to be 17 minutes. It has to be 17 minutes between them is Kazemi.
It can't be the same degree. It's my ruler of my triplicity for my finances now instead of Jupiter. And I quit my corporate job. Yeah.
I mean,
So there you
I mean,
go.
okay, well, let me explain. Um, Combustion doesn't really impact natal astrology as much as it does horary astrology and electional astrology. So there's nothing bad whatsoever that's going to unfold as a result of your Saturn being combust. Nothing whatsoever. At best, we can say that you have Sun Saturn conjunct natally, even though the technical definition of your Sun and Saturn would be that your Saturn is combust, but it doesn't actually matter at all. There's nothing.
It matters about my love life with Capricorn. That's it.
Well, well, uh,
My prince.
I mean,
It's not coming
I wasn't gonna
in.
say
Maybe.
I wasn't gonna say anything. I was gonna just leave that alone in the corner, but you brought it up. Also, look, I think that this is also a very important point because if you've gone through something already within your life, your chart describes what you're going to go through at least one time. And so I'm looking at your chart. Let me see if I could flip my screen so that you can see what I'm looking at because I'm looking at your chart on the 90-degree dial. And so there's your Venus on the 90-degree dial, and
Yeah.
we see that you have Venus and you have Uranus. Uranus is falling on that dot. And all that dot means is that your Venus and Uranus are having some sort of a hard aspect relationship in some sort of harmonic. The details don't really matter. But what that means, that is one of our divorce pictures in Uranian astrology, basically. And if you've already been through that, the reality is that you don't have to go through it again. And
Mm-hmm.
and I think that that's one of the lovely things about Uranian astrology. I'm looking at your sun. I'm looking at your sun moon midpoint, which is one of the things that we oftentimes look for in Uranian astrology as well. And I'm seeing that your sun moon midpoint is running with your Neptune and the Aries point, and that has to do with deception within love, and that has to do with somebody who's lying within love and somebody who isn't honest, and sometimes that can even be infidelity in love. But that whole combination has to do with disappointment in love, that this person who I thought would be amazing and so wonderful ended up being somebody who couldn't communicate. You have Mercury and Chiron there, which means that there was a wound in the communication in your
That
relationship. That person.
is exactly what it wasn't infidelity. It was the communication
Yeah,
problem.
so
Mm-hmm.
there's the Mercury Chiron, there's a wound in how this person is communicating, so he can communicate. And at the same time, the
And his Mercury
Neptune.
was on my
Yeah,
Chiron. Hmm.
yeah. So the Neptune and the Aries point is having to do with, it's just a disappointing relationship. I thought that this person would be able to hold me down, and he can't even hold himself up. Basically, is kind of the thing that we say with that. Now, question with this: was he from abroad? Did you have a partner who was from abroad?
My last one was from South America. Hmm. And he
Okay,
was
because
an artist, so that brought in the Neptune.
So because you have the Jupiter there, and that sometimes happens when we have a lover, when we have a foreign partner, or something to that effect. Let's take a look at the Venus in this, and let's just see what your Venus Saturn is doing, because the Venus Saturn oftentimes can point to the reason why we separate from people. And so the ascendant is landing there. Was there, did your parent, oh, did your parents also divorce,
No,
Celeste? I think I may have asked that.
no, they separated for a while, but they did not divorce.
Okay, so Venus Saturn running with your ascendant says that Venus Saturn means separation and love. I think that if I pull this up over here, so see, we see Venus Saturn has to do with love separation or love's sorrow. That's what Venus Saturn is meaning generally.
Mm-hmm.
And you have that running with your ascendant, and so that oftentimes can mean that there's a story of divorce within my early childhood environment, or there's a story of separation and love within my early
You
childhood
know what?
environment.
My mother left my father when I was a baby too. I don't remember it,
Yeah,
but she went back to him.
yeah.
But,
So,
mhm.
so that is that. And let me just check on your node for a second. And anyway, the point is you have a very interesting chart. And yeah.
Thank
That's
you. What was I gonna say? I think another love is coming.
Mhm.
Yeah. I feel like a big love is coming. And what was I going to say? Oh, I forgot what I was going to say.
Do you have any idea what year you're looking at as far as that's concerned?
I'm kind of getting next year.
Oh,
I'm wondering if Saturn coming to my Juno, Neptune to my Juno, could be
mm,
something about love coming in. And my Juno's at 0
mm.
Aries.
Okay, so
And
I'm
my progressed Venus is coming to trine my moon, so that might just be money.
mhm,
Not, I mean, that's several years away,
mhm.
but I don't know. I feel like somebody's coming. I'm
Yeah.
calling them in.
Good. Awesome. Well, I'm gonna go look for him. And see if I can your chart. So this is 2024. So I'm looking at the graphic ephemeris view right now. Let's just
Oh, and what software do you use?
so this is now, I'm back on Solar Fire, but beforehand I was using, this is called Nova Chart Wheels. This is what professional Uranian astrologers use.
Okay.
Um, we're back on Solar Fire, and so did you have a major love event in June of this year?
No,
No?
nothing.
Okay. So let's see the ruler of your, okay, Saturn is the ruler of your seventh house. And so I'm just trying to see how your chart reacts and how your chart responds
We broke
to
up. My last relationship broke up in April.
April. And what do we see happening there? No. Anyway,
The
the point is, I would look and I would see whether or not anything is going to hit your Venus. And so next year, you have when is this? You have in September 2025, you have the Jupiter coming to your Venus once, and then you have the Jupiter going across your Venus again. And so this whole period from about September to December is a very auspicious period as far as love is concerned. You also have the node, which is the north node is going to be crossing. That's the north node. That's it down there. It's going to be crossing your Jupiter in November. And node Jupiter has to do with a fortunate intimate connection or meeting a fortunate or positive intimate connection, because in Iranian astrology we interpret the nodes to mean intimate connections. And so that's happening. And so that's happening in November, right in the belly between you having Jupiter coming to your Venus once in September, and then it goes and then it stations and it goes retrograde, and it's going to be going over your Venus again in December. So this entire period of time September to December is a very auspicious time as far as love is
You,
concerned.
this year or next year?
2025.
Okay. Because what do you mean Venus coming to my
Oh,
Jupiter coming to my Venus? It's in.
so what I use, remember I use semi squares as well.
Oh.
I also use sesquiquadrates. So more than likely that's going to be Jupiter. Jupiter is going to be in Cancer and your Venus is in Gemini. So that's going to be the semi-square of Jupiter coming to your Venus. And the reason why I use those aspects is because they're just as manifest as any opposition, as many as any square, as any conjunction. The semi-squares and the sesquiquadrates are just as potent from a Uranian perspective.
Mm. Well, thank you, Michael. I'll let you know. But yeah, this gives me a year to get myself together.
Definitely. Well, thank you.
Yeah, this has been such a fantastic conversation.
Oh,
I loved talking to you. And yeah, really, really interesting. Thank you for all you shared. Do you want to tell people about, oh, acupuncture? That's a good idea, vibes being cute. Do you want to tell people uh, how they can find you, what things you have coming up? Can they still sign up for your horary or what?
yeah. Definitely, definitely. So my website is oraculosastrology.com. You can find out all the information you need over there. And you can definitely sign up for the Horary Intensive. That's going to be this Sunday is the start date for it. So please, if you want to jump in, my horary intensive is going to be based on my book, Horary Astrology and the Natal Promise. And in this book, I go over so many things. I go over astrological dream work. I go over geomancy, which is an ancient form of astrological divination. So there's so much in this book that you can chew on, and we're going to be diving into this entire book this Sunday in my horary intensive. So please make sure to tune into that. And yeah, just type in Oraculos over on YouTube, and you'll find us. Please be a part of the Oraculos momentum because I'd love to have you all be a part of it.
Yeah, and everybody can join Michael or follow me if you're new to either of us by putting the carrot. And Pale Sala, he was using Nova charts
Yeah.
for the Uranian wheels and then solar fire when he was showing the graphic ephemeris. So yeah, this has been great. Well, thank you so much,
Yeah.
Michael. Oh my God. We have
Yeah.
to do this again sometime.
We
With your next book, next March or whatever.
definitely. And I've been because we've recently started doing all of the Oraculos podcasts as a live stream now on YouTube, which has been so gratifying because I don't have to do all the editing and all of the stuff in the background that I used to do. And I've been thinking for a long time, and the only reason why we haven't started on Instagram was because our streaming platform doesn't stream to Instagram or something. But I mean, I just love seeing what you do in terms of these interviews because I mean, if if we were more technologically savvy, we'd be streaming our weekly forecast onto Instagram as well. So you've given me inspiration. I'm going to go back to my team and let them know, hey, we need to figure out how to get this Instagram thing to work.
Oh, and Patty pointed out I did catch up with my ex in June. We had dinner in June. So
Oh,
that was, I guess, a love event.
it's
Yeah.
a love event.
Yeah. He wanted it to be a bit more of a love event than it was, but we had dinner.
Well, there you go. There you go. So, so,
Yes.
so as a result of that, we know that when this Jupiter comes to your Venus again, that's going to be another love event.
Okay. I'm ready for it. It's Jupiter in Cancer, and Jupiter is exalted in
It,
Cancer. So he is going to be something, something special, special. Okay. I'm ready for it. Dun, dun, dun. I'm ready for it. That gives me time to enjoy myself. I do love my alone time too. Okay, what else was I going to say? I think we said everything. Oh, I did want to tell you that I think it's StreamYard will stream to Instagram and YouTube.
okay,
You might
awesome.
want to look into
Yeah,
that.
because we're using we're using StreamYard, and my tech guy, who's amazing, his name is Joe. My tech guy, he said that we would have to upload it separately to Instagram, which kind of was a bit of a buzzkill. But I mean, I love this format. I just have my phone set up and we're talking. Like, I could definitely do this. And I think that that's what I'm going to do because I just like I love talking, I love people, I love like social media. So maybe you'll see me around. I'm going to invite you onto the Oraculos, onto the onto the Oraculos.
I was hoping you were going to say that. Like, where's my invitation, Michael?
Invite you onto the Oraculos live stream. So
I
when
would love that. Absolutely. Hmm. Well, thank you, everyone. And thank you, Sally. Sally's proud of me.
oh,
Okay, you take
you
care and
as
we'll be in
well.
touch.
Have a good one, Celeste.
You
Bye.
too, Michael.
Okay.
Bye.